Mass immigration is needed because Western nations are aging societies. That is one of the most popular arguments that is made by the ruling class, that we have too many pensioners in the West and too few workers, so we need millions of immigrants to fill the gap. The only problem with this argument, as a bombshell new study shows, is that it's completely nonsense. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's not just me saying this. It is a senior member of the expert class, a professor of economics, a member of the Office for Budget Responsibility, David Miles, who points out all of the problems with this argument. For a start, immigrants get old too. What this is a giant Ponzi scheme, because the more people you bring in, the more people you need to sustain the entire system. Immigrants use public services, they use the welfare state. We know they take billions out of the welfare state and they bring relatives and dependents into the country who need the NHS and who need social care. So overall, the short-term fiscal benefit that you get from a sudden surge of immigration basically disappears over the longer term, and you just need more people to keep it going. In fact, David Miles estimates that the UK would need 20 million migrant workers, taking our population close to 100 million people by the middle of this century, which of course is completely unsustainable on our housing crisis, GP appointments, the NHS, schools, infrastructure. I could go on. But he also notes that mass immigration does not improve living standards. GDP per capita is what improves living standards. And one of the most striking things that many people in the ruling class ignore is that over the last 20 to 30 years, at exactly the same time as we've had mass immigration, GDP per capita has either been flat or has been declining. And this goes to show that this policy, this extreme policy of mass migration, is not actually improving our living standards, as everybody can see. So what is the answer if it's not mass immigration? The answer, according to David Miles, is to get millions of British people off the welfare state and back into work. That would have basically the same impact, the same fiscal impact, as relying on mass migration. And I would add that secondly, we need to find ways to encourage British people to have lots more children. Not just British people, but people across the West. We need an ambitious new policy of tax incentives and cultural change to encourage Western families to have lots more children. And that is a much better way of dealing with our demographic crisis than just importing tens of millions or hundreds of millions of people who also don't share our values and ways of life. As always, get this countercultural commentary at the politics newsletter, mattgoodwin.org, where we are constantly presenting evidence that undermines the arguments of our out-of-touch elite class. See you there.